For a long time, we thought it's only in men, but actually women have quite a lot of testosterone as well. In fact, if you look at it, we actually have more testosterone than estrogen.
What does it actually do in our body?
We know it has a massive effect on libido. I hear quite a lot around, I look at my life, I'm financially secure, I love my partner, I love my children, my job is amazing, I'm doing really well, and I can't find any joy in it.
What should we be looking out for in terms of libido? When do we know it's a problem?
Libido or lack of is a problem when you feel it's a problem. We all know that it's different for everyone throughout our lives. Some people have sex once every 2 months and they're fine with that, and other people, if they're not having it every day, that makes them feel uncomfortable.
Does testosterone impact weight gain, or if you're having difficulty losing weight, does it play a factor in that?
The truthful, honest answer is...
So what's your advice in terms of women who are either looking at trying to improve their quality of life, get their hormones kind of checked out, get this in balance? What would you suggest to them?
First of all, I'd suggest...
Welcome to SWIISH Wellness Unlocked, the podcast that cuts through the noise and gets straight to what works. We're your hosts, Sally Obermeter
And Maha Corbett.
We're founders of a global wellness brand that's been changing lives for over a decade. Every episode, we're going to explore the latest trends. We'll dive into breakthrough science and insights from leading experts to help you live, feel, and look your best. No fluff, just facts that work. Let's unlock it.
Testosterone. It's often labelled the male hormone, but here's the thing, women need it too. And when it's low, well, you can feel it. Think low energy, brain fog, zero libido, and the sense that something's just off. Right now, testosterone therapy is trending, but is it the real deal for women's health or just the latest wellness trend? Today, we're joined by Dr. Jo Bruce, a leading expert in women's hormonal health, to unpack the truth. What does testosterone actually do in the female body? Who should consider therapy? What are the benefits, the risks, and the science behind it all? If you've ever wondered whether testosterone could be the missing piece for your energy, mood, or motivation, this one's for you. Let's unlock it. So to kick things off, can you give us a bit of an overview of what it is? I mean, I think we all think we know what it is, but what is testosterone and why is it so important for women?
Okay, so testosterone is one of the sex hormones. I think for a long time we thought it's only in men, but actually women have quite a lot of testosterone as well. In fact, if you look at it, we actually have more testosterone than estrogen.
Oh, wow.
Testosterone is produced by the adrenal glands and the ovaries. It has slightly different effects from estrogen and progesterone. So, because through life it actually increases through our 20s and 30s and then decreases into 40s and 50s through that menopausal period. So it acts slightly differently from estrogen and progesterone in terms of it doesn't fall off a cliff at menopause, but we just get this gradual reduction as we sort of go through life.
And what does it actually do in our body?
It does actually convert to estrogen in a lot of cases, and so that the cells can actually decide what they need to actually make them work. We know it has a massive effect on libido, and that's well studied and well looked at. But also there is sort of emerging evidence around testosterone in women with things like fatigue and brain fog and muscle mass. We know that all happens in men, but we have about 1/10 of testosterone. And as Stacey Sims says, we're not small men. So we can't necessarily extrapolate from men to women. Yeah. But we do know that testosterone has actually a profound effect, particularly in libido. And lots more studying actually needs to be done to really know how testosterone affects women.
You mentioned that it starts to decline, whilst it doesn't fall off a cliff, it does decline as we get into our 40s and 50s. And that's typically, that period of perimenopause and menopause. Like, what are the most noticeable effects? Is it just I think because we associate with perimenopause, I guess in particular, you do associate a lot of the symptoms with perimenopause. So, for example, the brain fog, the mood swings, the night sweats, the lack of libido, etc. Is it primarily testosterone in that regard, or is it a number of factors that might be at play?
It's a huge number of factors, actually. I always talk about HRT as being a tool in the toolbox. And the estrogen and progesterone can actually make things a whole heap easier in terms of brain fog and libido as well. So testosterone is something that we can add in later. But I do my practical. When I'm practically seeing women, I actually like to get estrogen and progesterone stabilized first and then see what symptoms are left over. And then we can do a trial of testosterone, particularly if they've got hyperactive sexual desire disorder, which is the licensed reason to give women testosterone.
Can you say that one more time?
Hypoactive sexual desire disorder, HSDD, in short. It is, there's quite a few criteria that fulfill it, but effectively you can distill it down to underactive desire that lasts more than 6 months and is bothering the person. And that's what the testosterone in this country is licensed for. So you have to fulfill those criteria.
And what do you notice, like with the women that are coming into your clinic and you know, the types of I suspect that you're seeing a lot of your patients over a period of years, et cetera. And what are they coming to you for? Like what sort of tends to be, in your experience, the primary, in that sort of perimenopausal type window, what's the primary thing that they're coming and kind of, I don't want to say complaining of, but like reporting is happening for them?
So I think a large amount of mental health in terms of functioning day to day, feeling flat, lack of joy. I hear quite a lot around, I look at my life, I'm financially secure, I love my partner, I love my children if they have them. My job is amazing, I'm doing really well, and I can't find any joy in it. And all the things that they've worked for, and that flatness that people feel quite significantly. Poor sleep, awful. I think if everyone perimenopausal or menopausal got out on the street, there'd be a massive party between 2 and 3 in the morning, because everyone wakes up between 2 and 3 in the morning for about an hour. So those are probably things that impact life. We always talk about it in terms of hot flashes, but actually for most women, while it can be annoying and particularly, well, at night it can be really impactful, but during the day it doesn't seem to be as impactful in their day-to-day lives as we might think.
And so with libido, you know, how might someone, before they come to see you, like I guess you mentioned, like it's bothering them, I guess, in a way. Is that like, what should we be looking out for in terms of libido, and keeping in mind, I think as well, like life stage, et cetera, like when do we know it's a problem?
It's always a difficult question to answer because there's no one size fits all answer. I think libido or lack of is a problem when you feel it's a problem. We all know that it's different for everyone throughout our lives. Some people have sex once every 2 months and they're fine with that, and other people, if they're not having it every day, that makes them feel uncomfortable. So it's a very personal idea. I find women in general talk about their partners more than themselves. And how the interaction or lack of sex is affecting their partner. I spend a lot of time trying to bring it back to, but how is it affecting you? Because that's part of it. We've spent a long time not prioritising potentially our needs.
And so, you know, another sort of common complaint that we tend to hear as well around that menopausal period is around low energy. Is that something that, you know, testosterone also influences?
Certainly anecdotally, I do see that in my clinic. It's sometimes really difficult to sort of separate it out because I rarely give testosterone without having maximised estrogen and progesterone first. There's a few instances, but mostly I would give estrogen and progesterone, maximise that before we went and did a trial of testosterone. Therefore, it's sometimes very difficult to tell whether it's the estrogen and progesterone or the testosterone. If you look at the studies, if you're talking about the high level studies, there's nothing that shows that it does that. There's been quite recently a pilot cohort study come out of the UK that does suggest that there is an increase in or a decrease in fatigue and an increase in energy and also well-being.
Okay.
But that's a pilot study, so I look forward to seeing where that goes and how we can use that information.
That sounds promising.
It's really good that people are actually looking at it, to be honest, because there's quite a dearth of research, although we've had it around since the 1980s. And there were very small studies done but in terms of very small numbers of women. And HRT for decades has just really been about estrogen and progesterone. And we're now just adding in and talking about testosterone and its uses.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because the minute you hear anyone say HRT, immediately I think most of us go to, estrogen, progesterone. And we always, I think so many of us assume, testosterone, that's like a male thing. Like, yeah, sure, you might know that you've got some, but definitely not in the context of hormone therapy, per se. And I think then the next thing, that I can imagine would be concerning for a lot of women might be around side effects too of the testosterone therapy. Am I going to get hairy? Am I going to get muscly? Am I going to want sex all the time now? So what are some of the side effects, if any, of the testosterone in therapy?
So if we divide it up into short-term and long-term, the short-term side effects are things like growing hair and acne can be a bit of a problem. I rarely see it in reality because we're giving such a tiny, tiny dose to start with. I mean, we have 1/10 of what men have anyway, and then we're giving just a tiny, tiny little amount across the skin to improve the woman's personal levels. So I rarely see very much in the way of short-term side effects. I more often see women coming back at 3 months going, I don't think it's doing anything. And then they come off it. And then a week later, they phone me up and say, can I have another prescription? Because I think it was doing something. That's more what I see. Long-term, there's, out of all the studies that I've read, and I think there's no evidence of any harm, but we don't necessarily have the data of how testosterone replacement over 20, 30 years looks in terms of long-term side effects at the moment.
Is that something you think that landscape is changing?
It takes time to look at long-term data. So, I mean, obviously, if you want to look at side effects in 20 years, it's a minimum of 20 clearly
years.
a minimum of 20 years to get there. So I think it's a challenge and we will get it. Well, we'll get there, but it's going to take a long time. And these studies cost an awful lot of money.
I can imagine. And so are you finding that this is the case globally or just in Australia?
No, I think it's globally. Australia is the only country in the world that has a testosterone product license for women.
Oh, wow.
So we're actually ahead of the curve on that one thing.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Why do we have it?
And the company's Australian.
Oh, how fantastic.
So it went to the TGA first.
Yeah.
It's not licensed it's licensed in the UK, but the NHS don't use it. So people can't get it for free. In America, it's not licensed.
It's not licensed. Okay. So interesting. Let's talk about metabolism and fat distribution. Does testosterone impact weight gain or, I guess if you're having difficulty losing weight, does it play a factor in that during perimenopause in particular?
The truthful, honest answer is we don't know.
Don't know. Yeah.
We know that estrogen does play a factor in that. But the testosterone, we don't know. We can extrapolate, but we don't know that it builds muscle, which is obviously really important throughout the aging process. And you will lose muscle from around 40. We start losing muscle mass. And it will go faster once that estrogen reduces as well. So testosterone does increase muscle mass in men. The studies aren't there to really clarify whether that occurs in women. But I don't think it's unreasonable to logically think that it could increase muscle mass in women, but not to the same extent as men. You're not going to end up looking like you've pumped iron.
like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s.
Not going to happen.
You touched on estrogen there in relation to weight gain. How does that play out during perimenopause?
So changing through that process, we start placing fat around our middles rather than traditionally we used to probably put on weight around our hips and thighs. But in menopause, it sort of starts sitting around your middle a little bit more. We get visceral fat deposition, which can really affect your organs. And even if you're very slim, you can still get that visceral fat deposition. It also, lack of estrogen, if you think back to a few days before your period, everyone is wanting chocolates or wine, depending on your particular preference. But it's those kind of things. It actually makes you crave. Lack of estrogen can make you crave those short-term carbohydrates, which obviously changes the way you eat as well.
My goodness.
And that whole process of getting older, we just need to shift to a little bit more protein to stop that muscle loss and things like that. And it's just harder. The days when you can just not eat much for a couple of days and return to your base weight are long gone, unfortunately.
And I think, like we hear it from a lot of women in our community, like I'm not doing anything different, like I'm exercising the same, I'm eating the same, I'm, sleeping the same, all of those things. And yet somehow I just am getting this midsection weight gain. I can't shift it for the life of me. And I think I'm not sure how many people, have made that connection, say, between hormones and which goes to show you should go and speak to somebody like you who can help potentially shed some light.
Yes. And I think we do need to change. And I think because we need to be strong, not skinny now. We need to think about how much protein we're eating and building that muscle back up again.
Yes.
Because we're training our bodies now from in our 40s and 50s for being 80. We're not training it for now, whereas in our 20s, we might have been training the body for that immediate effect. And the culture has changed as well. In the 90s, someone reminded me we called it heroin chic.
Heroin chic, yeah. And I remember that era.
It just blows my mind that we even thought that was a concept at the time.
I know.
But the world has changed. We're now seeing women as being stronger and able to be stronger. So, and I think in our 40s and 50s, that's much, much more important than being skinny.
I couldn't agree more, especially if we want to live healthier.
Yes. So it's about health span, not
that's
lifespan.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so with regard to mood, does that kind of decrease in testosterone that happens over time or fluctuations in testosterone, how does that impact on mood?
It's a really challenging question to answer because I think mood is affected by so many. It's a very multifactorial. If you go out and look for a study that says, does testosterone affect mood? I'm not aware of one, and I certainly haven't come across one, and I've done quite a lot of reading in that area. I find, having said that, we have estrogen, progesterone and testosterone receptors in our brain, and libido is a brain function, not a genital function. So you would think that, therefore, that testosterone that goes on, that acts in your brain would have an effect on how you feel.
Yes.
But if you want to find a study that correlates that, I don't think it exists at the moment, apart from the one that's just come out of the UK that is looking at a reasonably small number of people, about 500. That does show that there is definitely an increase in well-being.
That's incredible. Tell us about the libido being in the brain.
Libido and desire is all concept. It's not about arousal occurs in your genitals.
Yes.
But the desire and everything else is very much situated in how your brain functions. Whether you want that intimacy with someone, whether you want you want that to be part of your relationship. You tend not to want to have sex when you're feeling bad most of the time, for women anyway. You want to actually feel in that right mood, and that's about the brain. That's not about what's going on. So at the end of the day, when you're tired, you're probably less likely to want sex because your brain's not in that right space.
That's so, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that it's quite like that, that it is a brain function. does that mean that testosterone or hormones aside, there might be ways that we can boost our mood, and therefore it might have an impact on libido?
Potentially.
Like if you're on holidays.
Yes. There's a few times, I think we were talking about before we start, that you do notice that libido is much less of an issue. Women that have repartnered tend not to have so much of a problem with libido. If you go on holiday, lots of women will tell me it's great while we're on holiday, now I'm back and it's gone again. But yeah, I mean, libido is such a multifactorial thing. It is not just hormones.
Yeah. And the repartnering, I think, is so interesting because we hear from a lot of women in our community, right, that the libido is actually one of the primary issues potentially in a relationship, right? So the mismatch of of sexual desire, of how often and frequency and all that sort of stuff, right? And so what is so fascinating about that is that then if potentially women who repartner, that goes away, but it's like, well, but maybe if it wasn't the libido, it could have been the mood. Like, it's almost like, which one do you tackle first? It's like if I tackle mood in general, could it maybe influence libido? And then therefore no need for repartnering. I mean, everything's so complicated, but it's quite a chicken and egg.
It is. And it's really difficult to know what to tackle first. Relationships are so different as they go through the years, the decades in some cases. And there's all sorts of pressures on relationships as well in and outside the home. So it's really challenging. There's a great book called Mating in Captivity, and that has a lot of information around monogamous relationships. But most of the information is about heteronormative relationships as well. There's not a lot for women that are in same-sex relationships. And there's not a lot of research done in that area either.
We need so much more. We need so much more research. This is, it's really tricky. And obviously I know it costs a lot of money and it takes a long time, et cetera. But, but I think it's like modern living has also created so many more demands on everybody.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely an area to be explored.
Yeah. But everywhere it's all, if you look at movies, they're generally, not all of them, but generally it's from a white heterosexual male's perspective about the intimacy in the bedroom, in movies. And so that's what we learn. And we learn it from quite a young age that that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it really isn't.
I think they think no one wants to watch the boring, tired.
No, absolutely.
You've got 3 minutes version.
But it gives this idea that women, for example, can orgasm quickly. They can do it with just penetration. In fact, only about 20% of women can do that. Yeah. And then it gets hidden because then women don't want to discuss about it. It's not just the movies. It's all out. Yeah. It's out there all over the place.
Yeah.
The sex education at school doesn't really educate.
No, that's so
other than
true.
biology.
That's why, again, I mean, this is why I think it's so important for women and men, but, to find a trusted whether it's their doctor, whether it's a therapist, whether it's like, there's a lot of information out there, sometimes misinformation. And I think you also don't have to go through all this life stuff alone. You can get support, you can get expert advice, you can do something to try to help, I guess, manage and get through and thrive, hopefully.
Yeah. And it's hard to talk about. For some people as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
We talk about it all the time at work. Yeah. but it is hard actually for people to talk about it sometimes, particularly outside of their relationship sometimes. And someone in a health professional way can be quite a good option because you know that they're not going to talk about anything else. Sitting with your girlfriends is, amazing. Cannot always be the right space for an individual to talk about that kind of stuff.
It's a lot of comparison sometimes. There can be.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And let's talk about testosterone therapy and what the process is. So let's say I decide that's it, I'm going to go and see Jo in her clinic. What would happen next?
So first of all, I really talk to them about the symptoms that they're actually feeling, and where they're at, what their basic knowledge is around HRT, what research they've done, because most women come in really prepared and have done some learning themselves. So it's really important that we understand where they're coming from, because otherwise, I'm just telling them things they already know, or I'm not taking them on from where they know and to get the best result for them. I maximise then their estrogen and progesterone if that's warranted, because that is a really good start. Testosterone is converted to estrogen, not all of it, but some of it. So if you're going to give testosterone, then it's just quite an expensive way to give yourself estrogen. So maximise estrogen, progesterone if the woman requires it, and then I get them back at 3 months and see where we're at that point with a blood test for testosterone. There's some complexities around blood testing, but really I'm doing it just to make sure that individual isn't really high levels before. And then we can discuss about what remains, for example, low libido, which is the licensed indication for testosterone, and then we can trial it if the person would like to.
If they'd like to, yeah. Why do we not test for estrogen and progesterone?
Because it fluctuates. So in a month before perimenopause, there's a fairly standard fluctuation across all women, not in terms of volumes of estrogen at any one time, but the fluctuation is fairly standard. Once you get into perimenopause, I've heard it described as all sorts of things, but I quite like the time of chaos, and the estrogen is unpredictable. It's fluctuating all the time. You don't know where you are from one day's end to the next. And then in menopause, it's low. So if you are bleeding with some regularity, you have estrogen. Me taking a level will just tell me that you've got estrogen.
Right.
But I know that anyway.
Yes.
Because you're bleeding.
Yes.
So if I measure, and I might be measuring at the peak.
Yes.
I might be measuring at the trough.
Right.
And we can't predict that. If someone in perimenopause, if you measured their blood levels every single day, it will be different every single day, but the next month it will be different again. So you're not going to get any valuable information.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in terms of then considering that testosterone therapy, if they do decide if you work out it's something that they could try, and if that's something that they would like to do, what should they be aware of?
So first of all, I do talk to them about the fact that we don't have much in the way of long-term safety data, because I think that's an important part of the decision-making process. There are some unknowns. That's not to say they shouldn't have it, but they just need to be aware that we don't have that data. I also talk to them about the fact that what is licensed, which is for hyperactive sexual disorder desire. We can prescribe off license, but again, I think the woman in front of me should be aware that it is off license. And then we talk about short-term side effects in terms of some women might get a bit of acne or a bit of hair growth. I very rarely see it, to be honest. I think I've had one person in the last year get a tiny bit of a breakout, and she stopped the testosterone. And it all went away.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't really see deepening of voices and things. That's very high levels of testosterone. And that's into another branch of medicine.
Not the one we're talking about today. And so what's your advice in terms of, I guess women who are either looking at trying to improve their quality of life, get their hormones kind of checked out, get this in balance? Like, what would you suggest to them?
First of all, I'd just look on the internet. There's lots of scoring systems. Have a little look and see what you're actually doing.
Okay.
Maybe keep a diary about how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis, and then you can look at the cyclical nature of it.
Yes.
So if you're finding things are happening on a monthly basis, then that might be helpful. If you're all over the place and you're in the right age range, and you're not able to function, go and see someone.
Okay.
Go and have a chat with someone about what to do. It depends how much you really want to prepare for your appointment. So I'm happy to see anyone at the stage that they feel they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I see women from, I just want to prepare for the next decade ahead of me, to women that are in the thick of it and are barely crawling into the practice to see us. Very satisfying to treat, I have to say, because you give them some estrogen and progesterone and they've crawled in, and then 3 months later they come in with full makeup and their clothes and their good clothes on, and you're kind of like, yes, we won, because it can make such a difference.
It really can.
Yeah.
I think you're not having to struggle, really. Yeah. You mentioned maybe keeping a diary. What would we be making note of? Sleep, mood?
Sleep, definitely, because it's one of the big things. Mood, hot flashes, if you get them, night sweats, joint pain, dry hair, dry eyes. I can tell when my estrogen's feeling a bit low because my hair goes really, really dry and straw-like, no matter how much conditioner I put on it. So it is just, there's lots and lots of symptoms out there. That's why it's quite nice to get a symptom score sheet off the internet, because that will give you a rough guide to kind of things that you might want to look for.
Yeah, we might ask you for one and add it into the notes for the show as well. So
absolutely, there's one on the Healthy Hormones website that's brilliant. And it's quite a detailed one, so that's really good. And I think there's no bar to coming and seeing someone. There's not a score that you can make, and I think it's about impact. So the one I use has scoring from 0 to 3. And some women will have 2 things that are 3, but massively impacting their life, whereas other people might just have quite a few that are all 2s, which is impacting their life in a totally different way. It is a unique experience going through perimenopause and menopause.
I think sometimes also it's about just taking the time to like check in with yourself and you know, and consider how you're feeling and going through each of those and stopping to say, where am I at on each of these? Because I think it's like a lot of people, you know, certainly in our community, they've said like, we're so busy looking after everybody else. We're so busy juggling the demands of life, like work and looking after older parents and having children and, you know, career, you know, all these things. And so they tend to ultimately put themselves last. And so a lot of this stuff, and also because, you know, I mean, you hear every day about people going, I'll just push through. I'll be fine. I'll just keep going. I'll just push through, and not wanting to let anybody down or drop any balls. And so I think even just stopping to take stock of like where you might be at, and then hopefully taking that information and then deciding if you're ready for that to go and chat to someone.
100%. I see it all the time that people haven't realised what is going on for them because they don't have the time and the space to actually think about it. And then they come in and suddenly they burst into tears in 5 minutes. Happens every day, multiple times a day. And suddenly, because for the first time, they've actually had some time and space to talk about themselves. And often lots of us are having children much later, so we've actually got quite little children still that require a lot of more input. Not that teenagers don't require input, but it's a totally different format. If we've got children but busy jobs, you know, we're a generation that often have full-time jobs as well as doing this, a lot more of us. So yeah, there's an awful lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I know. Guys, cancel my afternoon plans. I'm coming to see Joe. Just been making some notes. Tick, tick.
I mean, also, just as an aside, we also need to think about contraception as well when we're thinking about libido as well.
Of course, yeah.
Just as a little thing.
Yeah.
But a big thing if you don't want another child.
Ain't that the truth? That's amazing. Thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you want to add or cover? I've really enjoyed this chat. I found it's so helpful and so enlightening, I guess, and empowering too.
Thank you. I look, if I could say anything to women is trust your gut instincts. You know how you feel. I've yet to find a woman that doesn't know how her hormones affect her, no matter what level of education or access to education they have about the pure biology of it. We all know how our hormones affect us. Trust your gut and come and ask us, because it's our job to help sort it all out with you and make sure that you are on the correct treatment, no matter what the cause of your issues are. That's what we do. If you feel that it's your hormones, then come and tell us and we can work it out together and we can share that journey and support you through that journey.
Well, that's a wrap on Wellness Unlocked. If it hit home, then hit follow, share it, and dive into the show notes for all of the links and any of the resources. Head to SWIISH.com for more, and if you're in Australia, you can also find us in Priceline stores. Now, we want to hear from you what resonated, what you want more of, and what you're curious about next. This is your space for wellness that works.
Remember, everything we cover is for general informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Always consult your healthcare professional before making any changes to your health or wellness routine.